Hirers of Reddit, what did a candidate wear to an interview that cost them the job? I used to be the physician-led for my group's NP program. As such, I was involved with the interviews/hirings. Our business manager refused to consider a qualified candidate because she wore baby doll socks with her outfit. I never understood that one. Not an interview, but I worked for a video webcast company and we hired freelancers to operate our cameras sometimes when we were short-staffed. The rule is that you wear all black so you blend into the background. Freelancer showed up in a tie-dye sweatshirt and cargo shorts. He ended up operating the camera right next to the head of the bioethics committee that reports directly to the president. Not only did we not ever hire him again, the client asked us to never bring him back. Unusual one. My wife interviews a lot of people for therapy roles or varying types. There's usually a group interview after the initial ones and all the co-workers said they wouldn't hire a woman because of her shoes. The candidate had Louis Vuitton shoes on. The reasons they gave were: she probably wants too much money, not she even needs the job, and perceived her as a person they wouldn't get along with. She ultimately didn't get past the first interview. I asked my wife about it and she said she didn't even notice what she had on her feet. She didn't hire her because her experience was with adults and not children. Edit. A word. Obligatory not a hirer but an interviewee. I went for an interview at an insurance firm when I was 19. I was wearing office wear, so smart casual, but when I left my house I realized it was tipping it down, so went back inside to grab my jacket, which was an Adidas striped hoodie type jacket. I literally didn't think anything of it. I got to my interview, took the jacket off as soon as I entered the building and hung it up on the hook because it was soaking wet. Had my interview, thought it went well, and just as I was grabbing my jacket off the hook my interviewer told me maybe for next time I went for an interview to leave the jacket at home as it looked unprofessional. I sometimes do campus recruiting and interviews, but don't make final hiring decisions. With that said, at a campus event, my partner and I were going through a line of over 300 people. We scanned their resume, ask a bunch of questions to get them in our system, and add some quick comments/suggestions. Had a person wait in line for several hours. When she got to me, she had no resume and still had on pajamas. Now, I never try to judge a book by its cover, but I have to get through a person in under 4 minutes on average, and have about 20 questions to ask to put info for HR into our system. I was ready to power through this as fast as possible to get to a candidate that was an actual potential hire. However, this girl was graduating with a 4.0 BS computer science at the age of 17. She spoke 7 languages fluently. I could not verify this. She said she had started working on PhD research when she was 14, but didn't want to continue with school. I had to convince her to go make a resume, as I could not complete her in our system without it, and wanted to make sure she was visible to the right people. Honestly, I was surprised she even wanted to work at our Fortune 500 company. It's a great start for most people, but I would think prodigies would have other options than a $70K salary in Texas. She did go make a resume and waited in line again. I made sure HR found her profile, but I have no idea if she signed on with us. My time to shine. I used to do hiring for a small company in Lexington, Kentucky. Place wasn't super formal, but I would make it a point to tell people that if they came in for the interview it should be treated as such. We also had a lot of people come in from employment agencies. Anyways, call this applicant for an interview, which she gladly accepts, so I give her a time/date with what we need as a company resume, list of references, and last 28 years of addresses for a abuse background check. She shows up 15 minutes late in what can be considered theoretically to be a dress. This thing was epic. It was a see-through mesh dress with neon pink bra, underwear, and 5-inch heels. On top of that, she had waist-length blonde braids. Being that there is a barely dressed woman waiting for me in the reception area, I asked the owner of the company to sit in for interview. Didn't want anything to be misconstrued. Lady sits down and we do the interview. I explained to her what we did as a company and our mission statement. We provided services for individuals with AIDS/DD. After I explained this to her, she gets this look on her face and said, "I am not working as an ass wiper for no retards." At this point the interview is over and she is definitely not who we are going to hire. After she left, I moved the chair she sat on to an empty office across the hall. I've had candidates bung out of interviews for various reasons, but only one that killed her candidacy by being poorly dressed. Coworker Pete knows I'm hiring and tells me all about Jean. I need to hire Jean. Jean is the best. Jean's CV puts her in the middle of the pack, so we asked her to come in for an interview. Jean is wearing a beach cover-up and a skirt over a swimsuit. Jean has finger-combed her hair out, at best. She is wearing heels. At the time, our office only allowed jeans on Fridays and required collared shirts on men every day. Apparently she felt that her friendship with Pete gave her a leg up, so she didn't bother. She was not hired. A very experienced career sales guy applied for a full-time sales gig at our store. He came in about a week before his formal interview just to say hi and introduce himself to the manager. He had arrived wearing a Hawaiian shirt, board shorts and thongs, flip-flops for you filthy Americans, as he had come in unannounced and it wasn't formal yet. This was fine. However, the next week when he arrived for his formal interview, he was dressed in the exact same outfit. I just couldn't believe it. We weren't sure if he was just that confident that he would be hired because of his experience, or whether he legitimately didn't give a fuck. This guy's interview lasted all of about 5 minutes. He did not get hired, and instead we hired a 23-year-old with zero sales experience who actually worked out great. I wasn't the interviewer, but I was about to get interviewed for a job. So, this guy sitting next to me gets up and starts pacing around. Normally, I don't really pay attention to other people in situations like this, but he just seemed off. I look at what he's wearing, and I'm trying to laugh my ass off. This boy is wearing a bright green, and I mean like neon eye-piercing green, that said I smoke weed every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday. I'm pretty sure it was homemade based on the misplacement of Thursday that had a bunch of random stains from God knows what. That was before weed was legalized. He was also wearing some pretty dirty jeans that still had mud stains. This was for an assistant teaching job in a very well-known, in my area, art school. This was no McDonald's, this was a fully professional job at an art school. He left screaming at the interviewer about how clothing is a choice or some bullshit like that. Okay, for context, our office was in Midtown Manhattan. The subway station is literally inside our building, where you don't need to go outside to get in. Dude lives in Queens, so he is obviously taking the subway in. Also, as everyone knows in Nick, at the first sign of a sprinkle, Ubiquitous $3 umbrellas stands open on every street corner and subway station. He shows up dripping wet. Like, not caught in a rain shower, like, fell in a pool and did a few laps wet. Now in what little defense I can offer this guy, it was raining, but like, a light shower. Not a downpour or anything close to what it would have taken this guy to get as wet as he was. I really can't overstate how soaked this dude was. I could try and get as wet as him in the rain we were having, and wouldn't come close. So the receptionist calls me, and is kind of giggling, and is like, "Hey, UHH line, you have a John Smith here for an interview." I started him on the papers, but UHH, yeah, just come down. Because normal process was she would give him some papers that would take like 10 minutes to fill out, and then ring me when he was done. So I go down there, and well, wet dude, UHH, okay. He is otherwise appropriately dressed for a office environment. Suit, bag for his assumingly wet papers, etc. I tell him he can work on the papers afterwards and bring him into my office because I really don't want to wait to get to the bottom of this. Guy sits down with an audible squish which catches me off guard, and I'm so raining out, huh? Yeah, seems like you got caught in it. Yeah, like no umbrella. No, is it really raining that hard out there? Not really. Well, you are making my chair soggy. Oh, sorry, should I stand? What, no, so like, did you take the train in? Yeah, but then how did you get so wet? Well, it's raining a bit outside. It quickly devolved into a panel interview which was just us trying to figure out how he got so wet. We brought people in who wouldn't normally be involved in the process just to see the wet dude. I think we might have asked a total of 2 questions about actual job qualifications, and that was only as an afterthought. To this day, 10 years later, I still lay awake at night wondering what the hell happened to that guy. I tried to make the case to my boss to hire him just so we could maybe one day know. You only want to hire him to find out how he got so wet and to see what other shit he does know. Our best guess is he Michael Scotted into some fountain or something, but again, there wasn't one in our building, and we couldn't figure out where he would have done it along his way. Edit. Forgot to mention dude was in a regular suit during all this. Fascinating. I could see going outside. If I take transit to an appointment, I go way early in case of delays. Then you end up killing time strolling around or getting coffee or something. If he had an hour to kill and just took off walking for 30 minutes, then turned around ampersand walked back, maybe a fountain would be within range. Was there enough rain that a blocked drain could create one of those nasty gutter puddles, then a passing car splashed him with it? I just don't get why he'd be secretive about the truth though. He could have told an entertaining anecdote, charming your pants off. But he chose to be evasive. I'm the manager for a fashion retailer with a big focus on jeans. As a general rule, what people wear to an interview will not cost them the job by itself, but it certainly sways opinion, as to me it suggests they can't read the vibe of where they are applying. I always recommend erring towards overdressed than under. Last week I had someone come to an interview in a grubby hoodie and workout leggings, hair greasy looking, no makeup, etc. She unprompted, I don't comment on how people are dressed, told me that she was told wearing jeans was a no-no. Not a solid first impression. Then in scenario questions she was snippy and rude, had a full-on Karen moment, and used the word ouch, so no, she wasn't hired.